In a normal-ass world, Izayoi Sakamaki lies on the ground, thinking about how fucking bored he is. A few meters ahead near a river, some bullies are torturing some fucking nerd by making him strip his pants. His bare, flat bottom is an invitation for the bullies to kick him, and they plan on taking all of his clothing, sus, before throwing him in the water. The nerd calls out for help, so Izayoi gets up enthusiastically and starts launching rocks into the river, creating ridiculously massive explosions. One of the bullies recognizes Izayoi, so they run for their lives, making Izayoi lose interest, but just then, a letter for him falls from the sky. The scene shifts to a house where a similar letter lies on the table. Asuka Kudu stares at it, but just then, a maid enters the room with a drink for Asuka, so Asuka asks her if someone visited them while she was away, but the maid says no, though Asuka thinks she's a lying little bitch, so she uses her powers to make the maid tell her the truth. But the maid still says Asuka is the only one who has keys to that room, so she instructs the maid to leave, but Asuka is secretly excited to solve the mystery. The scene shifts again, as a third letter arrives for Yukasakabe, a young girl who can speak with idiots, I mean animals. She is sitting in her garden when a cat fetches the letter for her, but as soon as she opens the letter, you and the cat are transported into a vortex. The three kids fall from the sky and land in a lake, so they swim to the shore and greet each other. They agree they all got fucking sus-ass letters before they were randomly dumped into this unknown location, so they introduce themselves. Asuka is the first to introduce herself, and after exchanging names with you, she turns to Izayoi and asks for his name, saying he looks like a blonde knockoff Sakura from Naruto, so he's probably just as useless, but Izayoi takes it as a compliment and confirms he is the worst type of person there is. From far away, a bunny girl named Black Rabbit does a fucking terrible job hiding behind the bushes, so the three immediately know someone is there, but when she goes to reveal herself, Izayoi kicks the fuck out of the tree, revealing the intruder. They think she is cosplaying, but before she can say anything, the three attack her using their unique abilities, when finally Asuka commands a group of birds to restrain her, as Black Rabbit falls on her bottom. The three surround her, and you tries to yank her bunny ears to see if they're real, so Black Rabbit screams in pain, but Asuka and Izayoi decide to take turns pulling the fuck out of her ears. They finally let her go, so she gains her composure and welcomes them to the world of Little Garden, where the three are given a chance to participate in something called the gift games. She explains that the special powers they possess are gifts granted by various gods, demons, and spirits. Meanwhile, the gift games are competitive contests where you can place bets and use your gifts to win, basically Vegas, but you can bet with money, resources, your grandma, and even bet your own gift. However, to receive a prize, they need to follow the instructions from the host of the game and win the game. But the games can be really fucking easy or really fucking hard, so to test them out, she magically creates a poker table and challenges them to a game of cards, but she sweats profusely, thinking she's fucked if they don't want to play and leave the world. But Izayoi shows interest and asks what they need to do, so Black Rabbit places 52 cards and states they must pick cards with faces on them. Each of them gets one chance, and they can use any strategy as long as it doesn't go against the rules. Black Rabbit promises to do anything they say if they win, but Izayoi stares at her massive rack, so she clarifies she won't do anything inappropriate, but Izayoi says he's kidding, probably not. The three agree to play, so Black Rabbit summons Aya's roll, a contract that contains way to fucking many rules for the game. They read it, and ask to look at the cards. The fucking cheaters mark the cards, but Moron Rabbit somehow doesn't notice. Izayoi volunteers to go first, slamming the fuck out of the table, overturning the cards, so Asuka and you quickly grab the cards with faces on them. This sends Black Rabbit into a panic mode, but after she gets a confirmation from the Little Garden's command system that they didn't break any rules, she says Asuka and you passed the test, but Izayoi has not. However, Izayoi reveals that the card he slammed was a card with a face, and Moron can't fucking believe it, so she asks how he did it, so Izayoi says he memorized all the card positions, leaving Black Rabbit dumbfounded for underestimating them. Izayoi smirks and reminds Black Rabbit of the promise, but she immediately covers her chest and asks him what he wants, but Izayoi just asks her if this world is fun. Black Rabbit smiles, stating that the gift games are fucking insane and normal pussies would never be summoned, guaranteeing this world is way more interesting than their old world. Elsewhere in the Little Garden, a little man boy named Gene is waiting for Black Rabbit when he hears a girl make a complicated joke. She asks him why he didn't get her joke, but he knows it's a trap, so he says fuck you Mary you fucking bitch I fucking get it, the joke went right over my little fucking head because I'm fucking short get the fuck out of here. So they go on their way, and soon, Black Rabbit arrives and calls out to her master, saying Shu brought her new friends. but when she turns, she finds Aoi is missing. She starts panicking and asks the girls where the fuck Aoi is, so the girls tell her Aoi dipped to go sightseeing, so Black Rabbit bombards them with questions, but she gives up when she sees that Asuka and you don't give a shit. Suddenly, Black Rabbit's hair color changes, and she asks Jean to lead the girls into the city while she drags back Aoi. With that, she hops and sprints away, disappearing within seconds. The girls are surprised at the Black Rabbit's abilities, so Jean explains that rabbits are the servants of the founder of the little garden. He escorts the girls into the little garden, but they are surprised to see a peaceful city brimming with people. Jean tells them that the city also has a magical veil that protects some races from the sun, so Asuka asks if vampires are living here, and Jean says yes, adding that there are also gods, demons, spirits, midgets, animal-human hybrids, and humans living there. Jean proposes that they get a bite to eat while he answers their questions, but they are unaware that some weird-ass creep is stalking them. Meanwhile, Black Rabbit is back in the woods, and she is worried that Aoi may get tricked by the gods to play a dangerous game. Suddenly, she hears explosions in the nearby river, so rushes to find Aoi standing there. She yells at him for running away, but she is glad that he didn't get challenged by a god to a gift game, but he tells her to step aside because he's literally in the middle of a gift game with a god. The ground starts rumbling, and a water god emerges, but he looks pissed, so Aoi asks Black Rabbit to step back, but she is suddenly reminded of someone who is just like Aoi. The water god is determined to teach this fucking insect a lesson, so he creates a giant vortex, but Aoi strikes that weak shit away and kicks the god in the face, knocking him out, and Black Rabbit can't fucking believe a human defeated a god. Meanwhile, in the little garden, Asuka gives her order, and use cat. Calico orders cat food and rizzes up the cat waitress, leaving her blushing. Yu is happy that people in this world can understand cats too, and she reveals she can talk to animals, which impresses Jean and Asuka. Yu smiles, but she says Asuka has a similar ability, as she saw her talk to the birds in the forest, but Asuka says it isn't the same, but before she can explain, a heavy thud distracts them. The stalker from earlier invites himself to join them, and he mocks Jean, calling him the leader of the weakest community on the east side. Asuka asks who he is, so the man introduces himself as Galdo Gasper, the leader of the For's Garo community. Meanwhile, in the woods near the river, Black Rabbit is fucking hyped after winning a big water tree sapling from the god, explaining they won't have to buy water from the other communities anymore. But Aoi interrupts her, asking Black Rabbit why she called them to the little garden and what she has been hiding from them. Her expression changes, and she tries capping, but Aoi suspects either her community is weak, or something happened and they need their help. Black Rabbit stays silent, proving Aoi's doubts true. She finally explains that their community is on the verge of collapsing. In this world, communities are like countries, and they must register a formal name and banner, which can also be used as a bet. Up until a few years ago, their banner had flown proudly on the east side. However, one day they came face to face with a powerful enemy. They were wiped out in just one night and became a nameless community. Meanwhile, at the cafe, Jean asks Galdo to stop being a little bitch, as no one asked him to sit with them, but Galdo dismisses Jean and turns to Asuka and Yu. He asks them if they would like to join his community along with Black Rabbit, and he narrates the same story Black Rabbit told Aoi. Asuka is surprised that an entire organization was fucking murked in one night, so Galdo explains it was because of a demon lord. When a demon lord challenges someone to a gift game, they cannot refuse, which is what happened to Jin's community, so they were forced to participate and lost. Not surprised if Black Rabbit is your MVP, but it ultimately destroyed their community. With their core members gone, they had no one to replace them, so the only members left who are strong enough to play in the gift games are the current leader, Jean, and Black Moron. Even though they have 120 members, they are all children below the age of 10, so all these useless fucks can do is fetch water. Elsewhere, Aoi asks Black Rabbit why they wouldn't break up the organization, but Black Rabbit suddenly gets up, saying they can't do that, as they promised their fallen members they would get their name and banner back from the Demon Lord someday. They need players with great powers like Aoi, Asuka, and Yu, so she pleads with him to help them regain their lost glory. He is impressed by her determination, so Aoi agrees to help them, making Black Rabbit smile. At the cafe, oversized Galdo brags about how strong his community is, so they should join him instead, but Asuka turns down his offer, saying she would rather join Jin's community. She turns to Yu, who says she is there to make friends, so Asuka presents herself as candidate number 1 and becomes Yu's friend, so girl who has zero social skills decides to side with Asuka. Galdo is fucking pissed, so he asks why they declined his offer. Asuka says she was pretty fucking spoiled, so she wants to actually work for something for once. Big truck with huge wheels loses his cool, but Asuka uses her command magic and makes him sit quietly. She turns to Jean and asks if communities bet their names and banners in the games, so Jean replies that it is not necessary, but those bets are equal to betting the community itself. So Asuka forces Galdo to explain how they grew their communities so quickly. Galdo replies that they would kidnap the enemy's women and children to blackmail them into losing their game. She asks Galdo where those children are, so Child Predator admits to eliminating them the moment they kidnap them and burn the evidence. Asuka can't take this disgusting prick's confession anymore, so she releases Galdo, but he transforms into his true form, a tiger, and attacks Asuka, but you pins him instantly, so Asuka challenges him to a game, one where he will bet his entire community. Black Rabbit and his AOI finally reach the little garden, but Black Rabbit can't fucking believe they challenged Force Garo to a game, so the girls explain they were mad and picked a fight with him, earning smacks from Black Rabbit. But Jean apologizes, saying he couldn't forgive Galdo either, so Black Rabbit understands and doesn't mind since his AOI can defeat Galdo all on his own, but his AOI says he won't be participating, since Asuka and you picked the fight with him, so it would be rude to butt in, and Asuka thanks him for understanding. The game is the next day, so Black Rabbit decides to bring them to Thousand Eyes to appraise their gifts. She explains that Thousand Eyes is a huge trade community that knows fucking everything, even her cup size. Weird flex, but okay. Just as they reach Thousand Eyes, an iPad kid dashes towards Black Rabbit, taking her by surprise. The two roll down into the creek, but the kimono kid doesn't let go of Black Rabbit, successfully stuffing her face into Black Rabbit's cannons, but Black Rabbit recognizes the kimono kid as Shiroyasha, so she fucking launches her, and his AOI drills her in the chest. Shiroyasha is fucking pissed, but he says he's a Japanese loli so it's fine. They settle down at her shop, and Shiroyasha officially introduces herself, explaining she is a senior official at the Thousand Eyes and their headquarters is at a 4-digit gate. You asks what gate is, so Black Rabbit explains that a gate an opening in the walls that divide the little garden. The smaller the gate number, the closer it is to the center, so the stronger a person is, the closer they live to the center, so since Jin's community fucking blows, they are at the edge with a 7-digit gate number. Shiroyasha adds that gates with 4 digits or less are called the upper levels, and the god that his AOI fought was made a god by her. They get fucking hyped and ask to fight Shiroyasha, so Black Rabbit tries to stop them, but Shiroyasha says it's fine, so she brings out a card and asks if they want to do a challenge or a duel. Just then, the floor vanishes, and they magically find themselves in the middle of nowhere, so Shiroyasha explains they are in one of her game boards. She smirks and reveals her true identity, the Demon Lord of the White Knight. She asks if they're up for a challenge or if they want to fight in a duel. The trio thinks about it, but his AOI answers that they will let her choose, so Shiroyasha chuckles, deciding they will play a game. She presents them with the Griffin, the king of the beasts, and explains she will test their power, wisdom, and courage with the Griffin. She hands them the set of instructions, which states they must ride on the Griffin's back and do one lap around the lake. Yu volunteers and walks towards the Griffin. She introduces herself, surprising the Griffin, but he doesn't intend to go soft on her, so he asks what she is willing to bet in exchange for his pride. Yu instantly replies she will bet with her life. That seems a little fucking much, but okay, so Black Rabbit and Asuka try to dissuade her, but Shiroyasha intervenes and asks them to step back. Yu assures them she will be fine as mounts the Griffin, happy to see the creature her late father told her stories about. The game begins, and the Griffin takes off and runs on the air. The Griffin flies behind the mountain, but the wind and freezing temperatures get worse, so she struggles to stay on the Griffin, but she refuses to lose and disappoint her father. His AOI observes that Yu's power is more than just talking to animals, because she would have passed the fuck out and died from the ridiculous G-force of the Griffin if she was normal. Meanwhile, Yu clutches her necklace, a gift from her father that healed her legs, as she promises she will befriend the shit out of this Griffin, taking the Griffin by surprise, so he increases his speed to the max. Asuka and Black Rabbit notice he was losing consciousness, so they cheer for her to hang in there. The Griffin reaches the finishing line and congratulates her for winning the game, but Yu falls to the ground. Black Rabbit gasps and runs to save Yu, but his AOI stops her, and just as he suspected, Yu's locket shines as she wakes up and walks on the air. Would have been really f***ing bad if she impaled the floor and splattered everywhere. Her friends surround her as she lands, and his AOI explains that Yu's gift is to steal the abilities of other creatures and make them her own, but Yu corrects him, saying they are given to her as proof of their friendship. The Griffin lands and acknowledges Yu as his friend, so he thanks him for bestowing her with the gift and promises that she will always treasure it. Shiroyasha asks if she was born with the gift, but Yu replies she wasn't born with it. She was granted the ability by a wooden carving that her father had left her, so Shiroyasha takes a close look at the locket and appraises it for her. Black Rabbit asks Shiroyasha if she can appraise the trio too, so Shiroyasha thinks about it and presents them each with a card. The three have no fucking idea what to do with this, but Black Rabbit tells them the cards can store their gifts and identifies the gifts that they have, so they're hella valuable. Iseoi reads his card, but he says his card reads unknown, making Shiroyasha curious, so she takes a peek. She is surprised that these S-class gift cards can't read Iseoi, however, she smirks, and wonders how long they will keep acting cocky after seeing the devastation the Demon Lord has left behind. They all reach the land of no-names and are shocked to see it destroyed. Iseoi asks Black Rabbit how long ago they lost to the Demon Lord, so she says it was only 3 years ago, but it seems 200 years have passed. Meanwhile, at Galdo's mansion, a vampire girl bites Galdo, but she tells him not to worry, as he will be stronger than ever before. Back in No-Name Land, Black Rabbit plants the water tree, making the wells overflow with water, so Jean rejoices, saying they can finally grow their community even if they do not participate in the games. That evening, Black Rabbit, Asuka, Yu, and Calico are enjoying a bath in the bathhouse, and Asuka is grateful for the kids who cleaned it, but thinks it's child labor. Black Rabbit explains that in their community, the children who can't participate in the gift games support those who can, so yeah, it's fucking child labor, Black Rabbit. But Asuka and Yu agree that they need to win the games for the sake of their community. That night, assassins infiltrate the no-name land. However, Iseoi was expecting them and catches them, flicking a pebble at them that fucking explodes. Jean wakes up upon hearing the blast, so he rushes out to see what happened, but he finds Iseoi standing at the site, so he asks why the hell he did that for, but Iseoi explains that Garo's goons had infiltrated their land. One of the injured goons steps forward, pleading with Iseoi to destroy Galdo and Garo since he has kidnapped their children. But Iseoi tells them the children are dead as fuck, making Jean uncomfortable. But Iseoi reminds Jean that these men kidnapped their hostages in the first place. But Iseoi suddenly has an idea, so he tells the goons that Jean has pledged to defeat every fucking demon lord out there, confusing the fuck out of Jean. Jean is fucking pissed at Iseoi for making a statement like that, since this will make them a target for the demon lords. But Iseoi explains that with no name or banner, Jin's name had to be used to represent their community, and if Jean wins the game the next day, they will be recognized not only by demon lords, but also by people who want to crush the demon lords, so they can increase their support with the common cause. But Jean points out that not everybody left, and one of them, who once was a demon lord, is now a silly little slave of a high-ranking official who works for Thousand Eyes, but they will be put up as a prize in a gift game that will be held soon. Just then, the girls show up and ask them why they look so sus, so Iseoi says they were having a man-to-man talk, and he whispers in Jin's ear that he must win tomorrow's game if he wants to get his friend back. At Galdo's home, Galdo is angry at what happened. One of his subordinates comes to warn him about the game, but Galdo f***ing murks him. The building suddenly starts getting covered with branches, and the vampire girl wonders how no-namers will beat the logic-defying game. The following day, the no-namers arrive and are shocked to see the residence has turned into a jungle. Suddenly, Calico gets squeezed by the branches, so Jean touches one of the branches and finds it brimming with life, so he suspects it is a demon's work, but he can sense the gift of the beast. Jean wonders if a certain person did it, when Black Rabbit's annoying-ass voice breaks his thought and tells him they found Ahea's roll, which states that they need to fight Galdo with a specific weapon. Iseoi points out that Yu and Asuka's gifts won't be able to be used with those rules, but Asuka decides to fight, so Yu volunteers to help her as Iseoi reminds Jean that they can't lose. While Black Rabbit and Iseoi are waiting outside the forest, Iseoi suggests they take a peek at what is going on, but Black Rabbit tells him that unless the original agreement states that they can watch, they can't enter, so Iseoi calls her fucking useless. The trio starts to look for the weapon, but they can't find anything, so they decide to look for Galdo, but Yu tells them she has already found him. They reach his home, so they check inside, but they find Galdo in his tiger form. However, Jean thinks Galdo looks different, suddenly realizing that he has been corrupted by a vampire, which proves his suspicions. Jean looks around and finds a cross-shaped sword, making him believe it must be the weapon they are looking for, but Galdo attacks them, so Asuka commands him to stop, but Galdo somehow defies it and continues to attack them. He uses herself as a shield, blocking his attacks while asking Asuka and Jean to run. But Jean wants to help, so he charges, but Asuka uses her command ability and forces him to get out of there, so Jean dips the fuck out of there with Asuka while he successfully grabs the sword, but she gets cornered. Jean and Asuka make it out alive as Jean returns to his senses. He narrates that Galdo is a tiger that learned how to take human form, and then became a demon through a demon lord's power, but now he has reasons to believe that a vampire has turned Galdo into a possessed monster. Just then, Yu arrives covered in blood and loses consciousness, but Asuka grabs the sword and asks Jean to take care of her while she finishes the game. At a distance, the vampire girl watches them from a branch, but she senses something wrong with the trees, so she wonders what Asuka is planning to do. As Asuka walks, she remembers her conversation with Black Rabbit about different ways to use her gift, and once she reaches the house, she sets it on fire. Asuka mocks Galdo for being a pussy, so he charges out of the mansion and into the forest, but Asuka traps him by controlling the branches of the trees. But Galdo frees himself and charges at her, so Asuka asks the blade for its strength. She attacks Galdo and pierces the blade right between his eyes, turning him into ash and putting an end to the game. With Galdo dead, the forest disappears, making the news spread like wildfire as the community members realize that Force Garo is disbanded. Meanwhile, Isekai, Black Rabbit, and Calico rush toward Jean and Yu. Black Rabbit rushes to take Yu to the community's workshop to heal her, as Jean apologizes for being so f***ing useless, but Isekai dismisses this, saying that he was saved because he was there with her. But Isekai tells Jean that they cancel the plan if Jean doesn't feel confident about going through with it, but Jean decides to go ahead with it, thinking that since it is under his name, even if they fail, he can take a fall for everyone else. So Isekai drags Jean to the Force Garo community members and announces that Jean defeated Galdo, so he will return their names and flags. Jean returns the first flag to the grateful people, as Asuka finally understands Isekai's plan. Isekai steps forward and addresses the crowd, stating that they belong to the No Names, a community with no name or flag, and asks them to remember Jean, who has sworn to bring down the demon lords. So Jean plays his part and introduces himself as the crowd cheers for him. But at a distance, the vampire girl is pissed the f*** off at the little shit and his new heroes. And that brings us to the end of this episode of Problem Children Are Coming From Another World, aren't they? Till next time.